Hey guys, and welcome back to now for something a little bit different, episode 68. So I hope everybody's doing good out there and having themselves a good week. So today, guys, I'm going to talk to you about a film from 2018 called Alpha. Well, originally, I had actually taken some notes on this film last week, and I was going to release it last week, along with my episode of The Time Machine with Mr. John Nance. Ran into a little snafu and didn't get a chance to finish it up. So here I am this week recording it for you guys. It's a little bit of a bonus episode. I know I originally told you guys I'm going to be going bi-weekly, and I am. Like I said, I'm going to give you two new films a month, besides a comic book episode and the spotlight episodes with Jose and Justin. This just happens to be a bonus because I had some free time and I happen to think pretty highly of this movie. So I figured I think it'd be worthy of a conversation, worthy to hear what you guys think too in the comments. I'm curious if you guys have seen it before. So last week we brought you back in time with the time machine to the future, and the episode before that with Mr. John Nance, we talked about 5/25/77, where we talked about the 70s. But this time, guys, we went to the past, we went to the future. Now we're going all the way back to the past. We're going to Europe 20,000 years ago. So I figured we'll take it all the way back here. So that's what brings us to today. We're talking about the film Alpha. Like I said, this film came out 2018. It's directed by one Mr. Albert Hughes. It had a budget of about 51 million, and it ends up making about 97 million in the box office. So probably broke even is my guess. Because they say they spend what the budget usually, whatever the budget of the film is, they spend on equal amounts in advertising. So I don't know if it was entirely a success, but I think it's a success, guys. I saw it in the theaters and I was quite taken by it, which I will get into in a little bit for you and tell you why. So a little bit about Mr. Albert Hughes. He started making movies with his brother Alan at the age of 12, but didn't really formally learn his film education, if you will, until he took a TV production class in high school. And then from there, he went on to go ahead and make a short called How to Be a Burglar, which surprisingly garnered quite a bit of attention and quite a bit of buzz. After high school, he started taking film classes in college at a school called LACC, and he made two shorts that established their reputation, him and his brother Alan, and it allowed them the opportunity to direct Menace to Society. And now I think for a lot of us, that was a pretty big groundbreaking moment that came out in '93. And that movie made 10 times its $3 million budget. So it was quite a bit of a success. So him and his brother really took that, and they were able to really garner a really nice career for themselves. In '92, he worked with Tupac in two music videos. Brenda's Got a Baby. Then also in '92, a music video called Trapped. He also worked with Marvin Gaye in '94 on Inner City Blues. And then in '95, he went on to go ahead and do Dead Presidents. From there, he went on to From Hell, the movie with Johnny Depp. And he worked with Korn on a music video in 2002. 2010, he went on to do The Book of Eli. And then a movie called The Seven Wonders of Crisis. Hold on one second, guys. Yes, Seven Wonders of Crisis. And this was his first solo gig. This is where he kind of stepped away from his brother. He did a TV show called The Good Lord. And he did two, I guess more recently, he's done that Continental TV show, which I guess is a spinoff of the John Wick series. He did 2 episodes of that. Seems like lately he's kind of been doing his own thing. And his brother has also been doing his own things as far as their careers go. That kind of diverged at a certain point. When we get to our writers, we have Daniel Wiedenhaupt. Hopefully I got that right, Daniel. He worked on Alpha, American Speed, which is an upcoming film with Tom Holland and Austin Butler. I guess it's in, I think, post-production right now. So that's something to look forward to. And then, of course, Albert Hughes also co-wrote the screenplay for this as well. He's also been known for screenwriting Menace to Society, Dead Presidents, The Seven Wonders of Crisis, and of course, like I said, Alpha. When we go on to our cinematography, we have a gentleman called Martin Galash. And I really screwed that one up. I apologize, Martin. We're going to just call you Martin here and save us all a little laughing at the host here. He's done a lot of stuff, I guess, overseas. He's from Vienna, apparently. And he did a movie called get my French here right here. Lovely Nita 1, Hotel on 04, Goodnight Mommy in 2014, The Field Guide to Evil in 2018, Devil's Bath in 2024. Those are just like a handful of selections of stuff that he's worked on. That takes us to our editor, and that would be a Sandra Torres Grabowski. She worked on The Seven Wonders of Crisis 3 in 12, another Hughes brother film, Cages in 05, and A Bit of Bad Luck in 2014. So that's just a little bit of her career. When we head into the composers, we have a Joseph S. DeBasi. He's worked on The Shattering in 2015, 11:11 in 2018, Nightbirds in 2021. And then we also have another editor, a gentleman named Michael Stearns. Now, Michael Stearns has worked on 187 with Sam Jackson. That's a great movie that nobody talks about. And that came out in 97. And then he did a film called Do Not Resist in 2016 and Winter Break in 2001. So those are a handful of offerings from our editors. All right. Well, that brings us to our cast. We'll start with our main actor here today. And that would be Mr. Kodi Smit-McPhee. He started acting at age 9. He was actually born in Australia, and I never realized that. You know, these guys throw us off with their accents. I've only seen him, for the most part, do the American accent, and I would have never guessed he was from Australia. So what's interesting about him is the kid's pretty young. And like I said, he started at the age of 9 acting. I can make words today, I promise, guys. He's already got an Oscar nomination in 2022 for The Power of the Dog, which I have yet to see, which I'm surprised by because it's got a stacked cast. So I'm going to try to change that and make sure I get around to watching that. Some other films you might know him from, guys, are stuff like Stranded, which came out in 06, The Road in 09, Let Me In, the remake, of course, of Let the Right One In 2010. He's done stuff like animated, stuff like Paranorman. And then we got stuff like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in 2014, Hello West in 15, X-Men Apocalypse in 2016. The less said about that film, the better. Not the best X-Men film. But then he pops up in stuff like Deadpool 2 in 2018. So there you go. Totally redeemed that X-Men movie. We got Dolomite Is My Name in 2019, which is one of the best things Murphy's done, let me just say. I love that Eddie Murphy one. And then Elvis 2022. Also, more recently, he does one of the voices in Memoir of a Snail. And that's a great little animated film that came out this year. And it was actually nominated for an Oscar. So definitely a talented actor. And one of those guys, when I do see him on the screen, I'm always curious to what he's going to bring to the performance, because he always usually brings a pretty powerhouse performance. And even in this film, he continues to do that. So next up, we have, hold on one second, Johannes Haken Johansson. Whew, that's a mouthful, guys. And I apologize. I'm going to just say Mr. Johansson. I probably screwed up your name, and I do apologize. He's playing the role of Dad, we'll just say, and his name is Tao. He's a leader of a small hunting tribe. So he helms from Iceland. He was born and raised there. You've seen him pop up in stuff like Game of Thrones, Atomic Blonde, The Good Liar, Captain America 2025, believe it or not, and even stuff like The Witcher, you know? So he's one of those guys, if you've seen him pop up, you'd be like, oh, hey, I know that guy. He's also apparently going to be, this is a good one, because I'm a big nerd and love my Saturday morning cartoons from the 80s. So one of my favorite cartoons from the 80s, of course, is He-Man. And who is he playing in the upcoming live-action He-Man? He's playing none other than Fisto. All right. Get some of that fist action going for emphasis here. Nothing like a good fisting, perhaps? I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't really help. All right, so here's one briefly for you. So because this movie, Alpha, is about the relationship between a teenage boy becoming a man, and a wolf, one of our main characters, titular characters, is Alpha, the lead role, which is a wolf. And that is played by Chuck, the wolf dog. He was born in France. Unfortunately, we don't have a resume for Chuck, the wolf dog, because I don't think he has any more acting credits to his name. But I figured I'd throw it out there since I'm talking about actors. And technically, he is an actor. Next up, playing Mom, the character Ro, R-H-O, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Latasha Lynn Malth. Excuse me. I'm really butchering some names here, guys. But At this point, you guys have been around, hopefully watching the episodes long enough to know that's what I do here. Full-time host, part-time butcher, you get the idea. She started her career from the Norwegian area as a model and then transitioned into acting work. And she's one of these ones, again, you've seen her in other things before. And she's popped up in stuff like Disturbing Behavior in 98, Lake Placid, Me, Myself, and Irene, Halloween Resurrection. For my buddy Jose out there, she pops up in Elektra. If you're watching, Jose, hopefully you are. Skinwalkers in 06, Wish You Were Here in 05, Percy Jackson and the Olympians in 2010, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to go into the entire career, but I figured I would mention some of the highlights. Next up, we have Mercedes de la Zenda, and she's playing the role of New. She's been in stuff like Punch in 02, pops up in Bates Motel, which is a great show, and with Mr. Freddie Highmore. Definitely check that out. Another one that pops up. I can make words, guys, I promise. In War for the Planet of the Apes in 2017. And she even popped up in little things like John Tucker Must Die in 06. Now, here's one I did not catch because I don't know how I didn't catch this, guys, but Guilty as Charged. We do have a narrator for this film, and it's none other than Mr. Narrator himself, Morgan Freeman. Now, I didn't write anything down for Morgan Freeman because let's face it, guys, we all know Morgan Freeman and we all know his career. And if you don't, get your asses on IMDb.com and check out Morgan Freeman's career. The guy's a freaking legend, man. It's like saying you don't know who Clint Eastwood is, Get it together. So anyway, that covers our main cast and crew for you guys. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and get into the script. Now, again, I'm going to give you a pretty huge chunk of the script, and there are heavy spoilers ahead. I definitely would say, guys, go ahead, listen to it. It's not going to ruin your viewing of the movie, even if you haven't seen it. You can, by the way, find this movie. They edited it to Netflix not that long ago. You can also pick up the Blu-ray pretty cheaply. I think Amazon had it for maybe like $10. It's not expensive. Sadly, no 4K on this one yet. And for me, that's an absolute shame because I think this film would definitely be a great 4K transfer. Some people argue the merits of the CGI in the film and say it's not top-notch. Others are perfectly okay with it. Personally, from a technical side of things, I thought the CGI was excellent. They obviously have to use it for certain things. You're talking about a film that's supposed to take place in Europe 20,000 years ago. As much as we all love practical stuff, it's very difficult to do practical stuff for a film this scope. And as we get into the script, you'll kind of realize why. I mean, yes, you probably could do it, but again, I think it would be very difficult. And I think I've always felt, obviously, if you can use practical, right? You want to go that route when you can. But I think the best world, technology, as much as I complain about it, and trust me, I complain about it a lot, especially when I'm cursing at my computer and I can't get it to work. I think the marriage of practical effects and CGI, that perfect marriage is what we're looking for. Endlessly blend the two to work together as a team to ultimately get the best possible outcome. I've always felt that way. Again, I'm talking about a 50-year-old guy, so I did grow up in the 80s, especially like when it comes to genre fare, like sci-fi and horror films and stuff like that. Wanted that practical stuff, and we didn't think about CGI because it really wasn't a thing. But now that we have the tool at our disposal and you marry it with practical effects and you get that best possible outcome, I say go for it, and I think, like I said, this film does rely a lot on the CGI, but I do think the CGI is pretty well used and it's there as an enhancement to enhance the story and the characters. And if it's used in that way, why not? Anyway, that's my John rant for the day. I'm sure you'll probably get one or two more because you wouldn't be watching this show otherwise, guys. It's just something that popped in my head and I wanted to bring it up because it was something I noted when I did. I don't normally look at other people's reviews. I don't really care, but I did notice a couple of the complaints were that. And honestly, guys, I did not take note of that because I was kind of ensconced by the story. I was drawn in by the story and I didn't notice any bad CGI. So that's just me. Maybe you'll think differently if you get a chance to watch it, or maybe you've already seen it and you think differently, but to each their own. All that said, back to the script, guys. So it starts off and it says, somewhere in Europe 20,000 years ago, and we're introduced to a tribe of hunter-gatherers that are getting ready for a hunting trip. The key here is, to get ready to do one last hunting trip before the winter comes. And we're introduced to the leader of the tribe, a gentleman named Tao. Tao is training his son, Kita, who's a teenager, probably like late teens. He's on the verge of becoming a man, and he's training his son, and he wants to bring him along on this hunt. Because, like I said, they want to get enough stores, food to store, to preserve, to survive the winter. He's talking to his wife, Ro, who's complaining, and she's, obviously worried, and she's like, she knows her son, and she doesn't think he's ready for this responsibility yet. She loves him. She's worried that he's not going to be able to handle it. But Tao reassures her like a good husband and tells her, hey, he'll be fine. And they set out. Pretty early on in this hunt, they have pretty good luck, and they catch a wild boar out on the hunt. Tao tries testing Kita by having him kill the boar, but Kita just doesn't have it in him. And of course, Tao is a little bit disconcerted by this. He's upset for obvious reasons. Later that same night, as the group is settling down for the evening in the campfire, just trying to rest and get ready for the next day, Kita's son his friend is brutally attacked by a lion. He sees the fire, is attracted to it, and he literally grabs Kita's best friend, Kappa, from the group. He drags him out, and you just hear the sounds of Kappa being devoured. Welcome to Europe 20,000 years ago, guys. This is the way it goes, The next day, they have a memorial service, and they're given what's called a car, C-A-R, which is something to symbolize the passing of his spirit into the afterlife, essentially. Soon afterwards, they all hear the howl of a wolf. Tao tells his son Kita that the wolf's name is Alpha, and he is a leader of his clan. Cuts the next day, and we see our hunters approach a herd of bison. They attempt to drive the bison off a cliff for an easy kill. Unfortunately, one bison rushes Kita and tosses him over the edge. Somehow, Kita manages to grab the edge of the cliff momentarily, but his grip loosens, and unfortunately, he plummets to a ledge further down. It appears that his leg is broken, and he is knocked out. Tao thinks to climb down, but his fellow clansman Sigma tells him, unfortunately, there's no way he could have survived. They all think he's dead, essentially, They're just hunting these bison. It catches the attention of one bison. Like I said, he just rams him and throws him off this cliff. The next day, the tribe perform a funeral, and of course, like any father, Tao is overcome with sadness over the death of his son. It's one of those emotional impacts where you're just like, man, when someone you love is just brutally taken away from you, you don't really know what to do. You know what I mean? So many hours later, we cut back to Kita, and we find out he's still alive. He awakens to the sound of a vulture who looks like he found an easy meal. He manages to kill the bird despite his broken leg. He even manages to kind of make a makeshift bandage, bandages it up, and he manages to kind of limp along here, he's not doing too great. He manages to make it to the top of the cliff somehow, despite the fact that his leg is really fucked up, by scaling it very slowly. Just bear with me for a second, guys, because of course I am using my notebook here, and it wants to act up here. So bear with me for just a second, guys. I apologize for this. My notebook is usually pretty good, but every once in a while it gives me a hard time. So he slowly makes it to the top of the cliff. And when he gets to the top, he sees the memorial grave with the cairn. It's like ornamental jewelry. And the sudden realization is kicking in that they think he's dead. And he has to make it back to the village alone. And he has to do it injured. So the odds are not in his favor. And keep in mind that the village isn't close. Because, they traveled a great ways to hunt for stock for the winter. So it's not going to be an easy journey. All right. Later that day, as he's trying to make his way, severely injured, he's attacked by a pack of wolves. And with some luck, he manages to escape up a tree, and he manages to wound one of them. The other wolves leave their comrade to die and move on, because that's just unfortunately, that's the way the wolves work. They see an injured animal. They don't go to help because that's not their nature. It's just like, hey, he's not an alpha. He's a beta, and Kita is tempted to take a moment to kill this animal because he knows it's a threat, but he doesn't have that in him, Instead of killing the animal, he starts caring for the animal and its injury. And of course, it is a wolf. So this wolf alpha is not at first very friendly. It's growling. It's looking like it might bite him and stuff. What happens is over the course of the next few days, he gains his trust by giving him food and water, and he establishes dominance in their pack. He does things like, when he's eating, he makes sure that he eats first and the dog eats second, and of course, we're talking about a wolf here, and wolves don't like being told what to do, and they don't like being the beta in the wolf pack, and that's what's happening. As he goes to leave and again continue his journey, he realizes the wolf is following him. And at first, he's like, go back to your home. But they've kind of established a friendship. And so as time goes on, so does their bond, working together as a team, hunting and fishing. And we get some great sequences where they're going out on hunts and you see them working together as a team. It's really good. One cold night, a group of wolves approach them and they're pretty ferocious. Like we think, at this point, we're going to see some shit go down, pardon my French here, and things are going to get pretty violent. But one of the wolves looks at Alpha and starts sniffing him. And they recognize there's a moment of recognition between the two wolves. And Kida looks at Alpha and Alpha looks at him. And there's almost like this look of like, hey, these are my friends. And Kida realizes that, the proper place for Alpha to be is with his wolf pack because that's what's natural. So he encourages Alpha to go with his wolves and Alpha joins them. So at this point, it's kind of a low point because you kind of feel like throughout the script up until this point, we've seen this friendship between this boy becoming a man, this rite of passage, if you will. And then all of a sudden his best friend leaves. And of course, we know it's the right thing to do, but just because something's the right thing to do doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do. But he knows it's the way it should be and it's the proper order of things. And wolves shouldn't be hanging around with kids, or not kids, but shouldn't be hanging around with people because they're wild animals. So there's this moment of sadness, and Kida learns, hey, that's the way life is. He sets off on his journey. A few days later, he approaches a frozen lake, and he comes across a group of wolves feeding on the body of a dead animal. Recognizing Alpha in the pack, Kida runs to him, because that's his friend. At this point, they become friends. And unfortunately, the ice breaks and he falls in. And we see this epic moment in the film, guys, where he's trapped underneath the water and he's got like his little spear and he's trying to poke his way out. And then we see Alpha chasing him across the ice. And we get a moment where he's trying to poke at the ice with his spear, and the dog hammers down with his paw, or the wolf, hammers down with his paw, and he manages to dive in and grab him and save him. And it's a pretty good moment. It's a pretty epic moment in the film. Bear with me for a second. So yeah, after that, the dog saves him, Alpha saves him, and effectively he's almost dead. He's freezing to death. He manages to start a fire. He takes all his clothes off. He manages to get warm, and you can see that he's not in good shape. He probably, no doctors back 20,000 years ago, but he'd probably be diagnosed with pneumonia. But again, the fortitude here, the will to live, the will to survive, along with now having his best friend at his side again, gives him the courage to kind of keep going. And at this point, Alpha's rejoined him. And like I said, he realizes that the friendship that he has between this teenager, and him is established, and that is they've become their own little wolf pack, so we get Alpha back for good. Like I said, there's that moment of, as an audience member, there's that moment of connection, that moment of joy where you're like, all right, we knew that Kida was doing the right thing initially by letting Alpha go, but it's such a heartbreaking moment. So when we have that reunion as an audience member, we're just connecting with that, because the whole foundation of the movie is based off friendship. And just because it's an animal doesn't mean that it's just as valuable friendship as anything. A little personal life, you guys probably have seen him pop up from time to time on video. I have a collie. His name is Bill, his name started off as Bilbo, and then we shortened it to Bill. And I will say this much: I have quite a few good friends. Who unfortunately, I don't see because everyone's busy. And I have family that I love and a lot of good people in my life. But I will say that I never thought 4 years ago, even though I've had dogs when I was a kid, I never thought that my best friend would be my dog. But he is, man. Let's face it. If any of us that have dogs or even have cats, they become your best friend, because you know what? Doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. You could be having the best day of your life. You could be having the worst day of your life. Let's face it, they love you. It's unconditional love. You come home, their tail's wagging. I mean, our dog's a goof. I come home and he's usually lying on our couch. And the minute he sees us, he puts his belly up and he won't go out to the bathroom until we go over there and give him a belly rub. You know, like, and well, trust me, I came home last night and I'm like, dude, come on, you gotta go to the bathroom. And he just has his feet up and he's waiting for that belly rub before he goes outside to go to the bathroom. So, you know, let's face it, dogs become our best friends. They do, you know, they really are. And I don't know what I would do without ours. He's 4 and luckily at 4 years old, he's still young and healthy, you know, and hopefully has a long life ahead of him, but he's an amazing animal. And I think that's what we kind of have here with Kita and Alpha, you know, and so that's why when they had that reunion, I can make words today, I promise, guys. When we have that reunion between our two main characters, we're really like, wow, yeah, that's it. That's what we want to see. That's what we're here for, that crux of that friendship. So the next day, they start their journey again. And at first, from a distance, they see a tent. And then they see what appears to be a man sitting outside the tent. So there's this moment of like, oh, wait, maybe we can, you know, get some relief, rest, maybe eat some food, forge a new friendship. But sadly, when they get there, we see a man that's unfortunately didn't survive the tundra of the North. This gentleman is literally frozen to death. And again, goes to show you how hard it is to survive, especially back then, but just in general, you know, it's survival. They take a moment, you know, and then they do what they have to, which is, you know, they go inside his tent. There's really nothing to be gained there. They do find one bow and literally one arrow. And they hold the bow and arrow because they know that, hey, that might come in handy later. And hint, hint, it does, guys. I'll get to that later. But it's a somber reminder of how quick death can come, especially in the throes of winter. So, you know, these guys, they're really going on a journey here. And it's literally one thing after another, I guess. And that's why the movie's an hour and 36 minutes. It's not a long movie, but there's enough action going on in the movie to really grip you and get you into the characters and the journey they're going on. So soon afterwards, again, they're getting chased by wild animals. And this time it's a group of hyenas. Now they have this wild chase scene and it's very well shot. And luckily, just in the nick of time, they managed to find refuge in a cave. And they think, you know, all right, we found shelter for the night. The hyenas can't get in here. We'll start a little fire, we'll chill out, relax, and regroup and get ready for our next day journey. Well, of course, nothing goes to plan as it should. And what happens? But there just happens to be a lion that manages to find his way into this cave. And the lion attacks Kita at first. And of course, Alpha comes to the rescue and gets into a vicious fight with this lion. And they're going toe-to-toe, or if we will, claw-to-claw here, if you will. And just as we think that Alpha might have finally seen his demise, Kita manages to grab the bow and arrow and kill the lion. And like I said, I think it enhances the scene by the fact that we know that he only has one shot because he only has one arrow. But he does manage to take out the lion. Fortunately, in the process of taking out the lion, Alpha is pretty severely wounded. Kita realizes that time is of the essence and he needs to get back to his tribe if he's going to survive. I mean, also, Kita is coughing up blood, so you know that he also is not doing really well. They leave the cave, and at first, Alpha's walking slowly behind him, but you can see that the wolf is struggling. So Kita grabs the wolf in his arms, and we walk, and we follow them, and they're walking, and there's a blizzard going on, and they're both struggling, and we don't know, as an audience member, if they're going to make it. Now, obviously, we hope they're going to make it, but the struggle for life, that hope that we can live one more day, breathe one more breath. As an audience member, we're enthralled, you know. And again, there is a positive outcome. He manages to make it back, and he sees what he thinks might be a group of tents outside through the blizzard, but he's not sure. But he manages to make it through, and his mom first sees him, and then his dad. And at first, they can't quite believe it's him, but they're overjoyed. And you see him collapse to the ground, but his first words are, "Save Alpha," because he knows that Alpha is badly injured. So the mom and the dad bring them into the tent, and they get the healer and he's reunited with his parents. And Kida said, "Please take care of it. This wolf saved my life." And over the course of the next few days, they slowly both start to heal. And several days later, Kida is surprised when all of a sudden we see a litter of puppies come out. And lo and behold, excuse me, we find out that Alpha is not the alpha male, but the alpha female in this case, and is a mother. And then from there, the film ends where we're left with an image of the tribe and the wolves hunting together. And that's pretty much it, guys. Again, so listen, we've all seen movies. Just bear with me for a second, guys, because I do have a couple notes that I want to glance at. We've all seen movies between the bond between man and wolf, or in this case, wolf and man. There's been a ton of stuff like that. And you might be asking me at this point, well, John, what makes this movie stand out? Like, what's the difference between this movie and so many other movies like Hachi, A Dog's Tale, or Lassie, or even something like Old Yeller or Marley and Me, and I'm sure the list goes on. Hell, you could even make the comparison to like How to Train Your Dragon, the bond between the dragon, well, all dragons are fictional, but the bond between the dragon and a young boy becoming a man. What makes this thing so distinctive? Well, number one, you have Mr. Hughes directing, okay? And not all of his films are a success. Like, I didn't like The Book of Eli, guys. That didn't do much for me at all. I don't think everything he does is amazing. I do think he has talent, and I think he brings that to this film as well as all of his other films, whether they were failures or successes. He brings his own distinct style. But I think that this movie really shows the bond and the friendship between our characters. And I think that's really important. And I think they do it in their own unique way. And I think that's also important. I think they make characters that you care about. So yeah, the old story about every story's been told, right? So why bother doing it, right? So I know people have said something along those lines. It's like, well, no matter what story you're telling, we've all seen it on the screen before, right? A perfect example, the play Romeo and Juliet, right? Guess what? That was based off something that was written 100 years before that Shakespeare ripped off, supposedly, and the same could be said in movies time and time again. It's how you put your own unique spins on it. From in this film, like the technical stuff, the camera work, to me, like that stuff is gorgeous. The cinematography is beautiful. But for me, even though I know I talk about liking a lot of stupid movies, guys, and trust me, I like a ton of stupid movies that some people would be like, really, dude? Like, I really like, there's a shit ton of movies that people like. You watch that. Just ask Troy and Brad about Eurotrip. I got to bring that up. I got to bust your chops again. No, but there's a lot of movies that, like, okay, well, you like that type of movie. Yeah. But at my core, my foundation, I do like movies that are where there's strong connections between our characters, where you have a good story. It doesn't have to be anything overly elaborate, and you connect with the characters. And for me, this movie is all about crafting a story that, yes, we might be familiar with the concept of a story of a boy and a dog, or even a rite of passage story, essentially what this is, and the connection. But this movie touches me because it's about friendship. Again, you have the rite of passage element. You have a well-crafted story, and you have a well-shot story. And Hughes does bring his own touches to the film. I think this film definitely deserved a better life at the box office. But let's face it, guys. I mean, nowadays, you never know what's going to do well at the box office and what's not. You could have a $300 million tentpole film and pump another $100 million into marketing for it, and it could still fail, bottom out. I mean, now this is going back a few years ago, and I know other people have talked about it, but look at something as simple as Solo, the Star Wars movie, right? Now, obviously, that's a movie where they replaced the two directors when they had shot in like 60 to 75% of the film. So obviously there were reasons they were going to have to pump more money into it. But who would have ever thought, in my lifetime, I would see a Star Wars movie that failed at the box office? You know what I mean? Like, I never would have ever thought that in my entire life. I would have never thought we'd come across a day where we'd see a movie like Star Wars take a shit at the box office, but it did. So my long drawn out, long-winded point here is you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work when it comes to the financial outcome of your film. All you can do is start with a good foundation, whether it's a story that's been told before and you're doing your own take on it, whether it's a completely unique idea, whatever you're doing, craft a film with characters that people are going to care about. Now, this movie, I will tell you guys, it's not the best thing ever made. And like I said, you're going to watch this film if you haven't seen it, and you're going to be like, okay, well, the themes and the idea I've seen in other films. But again, it's what you're doing with this particular film or any film, and what is your spin on it that makes it different and unique. Do I care about these characters? Do I want to see this journey throughout? I saw it in the box office. Like I said, I saw it on the big screen. I have that AMC list. With that, if I have time, I'll usually see at least one or two movies a week. I try to do like on Saturday or Sunday, I do like a double feature. I try to squeeze it in. So I see a lot of stuff. And I remember this was a movie when I saw it. I had seen the trailer a couple times, but it wasn't a movie that I feel like they pumped. I don't think they pumped 50 million into budgeting or 100 million into budgeting. I think I'd seen the trailer a couple times. It looked like something that would be up my alley, and I watched it and immediately liked it. And it was one of those movies when it came out on Blu-ray, excuse me, I can make words. When it came out on Blu-ray, I bought it shortly thereafter. So yeah, no, guys, this is definitely a film that I would definitely check out. And like I said, all of us have Netflix, or if not all, most of us have Netflix. So there's no excuse. Definitely check it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the movie, if you didn't like the movie, if you had thoughts, what they could improve, what they couldn't improve. Just in general, guys, if you guys don't mind doing me a huge favor, and obviously I know we're all busy and you don't certainly have to do this, but if you have a second, guys, please share the YouTube channel. I'm trying to build an audience. So far, I have a pretty loyal audience and it's great, but I'm trying to always build the community and grow the community. If you guys have suggestions, please let me know. I'm just getting into the editing world, guys. As you can tell, it's still not perfect. And I made a mistake the last episode with Mr. John Nance. I had a part with the music in the middle of the video. I accidentally put it in. I don't know how, but it happened. And I'm probably going to continue to make mistakes because I'm not a tech guy at all, guys. Hopefully over time, I'll just get better and better at it. That's the game plan. But just keep in mind, it's a process, and like any other process, it does take some time to get a hang of it. But if you like what you're listening to today, guys, do me a favor and, like I said, share on your Facebook page or your Instagram or whatever you use, and let's help grow this channel. And trust me, guys, anyone that knows me, I totally do a shout out every episode for all my fellow podcasters. And not only that, but I also share it on my Facebook group, because, not because they're friends, honestly. Well, I mean, that's part of the reason, but most of it's because they put out quality stuff. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put out quality stuff. And the films I talk about, guys, are films that I connect with. And ultimately, that's why I talk about them, because I don't talk about the stuff that's out of the box office very rarely. The stuff that's currently playing. I choose films that I feel a connection with. And this is a very good example of that. So again, if you like the channel, guys, please, by all means, share the love, get the word out there. If you have anything to say or any suggestions at all, from a technical perspective, if you think there's something I could be doing better, let me know. Drop me a comment down below, or even shoot me a message on Facebook through Facebook Messenger. I'm easy to get a hold of, and always glad to hear anything anyone has to say. So that's today's episode. A couple of things I want to shout out. Happy Memorial Day. It's a little early, guys, but I don't know if I'll see you guys over the weekend. If I have time, I might do a comic book episode, but I just don't know if I'm going to have time. I'm going to try to release one in the next week or so, though. So happy Memorial Day early. Keep in mind, not next week, but the week after that, I'll be back with Mr. John Nance, and we'll be talking about the 1966 film Fahrenheit 451 by Mr. Ray Bradbury, directed by Mr. Francis Truffaut. Excuse me, I keep on getting that wrong, but I am the butcher, so I'm going to start butchering names, of course. So yeah, that's some stuff to look forward to. Next up, I'm going to give you a shout out to all the podcasts that you should be listening to. I'm going to start with Not a Bomb. And let me just say happy birthday to Troy. Troy, happy birthday, buddy. I hope you have an awesome day. As I'm recording this on Thursday, today's your big B day, so hopefully you're out celebrating. Play hooky from work, buddy. Fuck that place, Birthdays are meant to be celebrated. Troy and Brad kick ass every week. They're always delivering great movies. The last episode they recorded, I talked about on Sunday, which is the remake of Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is called Handsome Guys. And yes, I did bust their chops because I had to drop $50 on a Blu-ray because I had to own that remake. But no, I have nothing but love for those guys. And they've really shown me some really great films that I need to have in my collection, and that being a perfect example. So check out Troy and Brad with the Not a Bomb podcast. Like I said, every week They look at films that were either a commercial failure or a critical failure, and then they go ahead and reevaluate these films. Also, you have to mention The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema with Will and Sam. Will and Sam have been around forever. I think they've been doing it for 16 years, maybe, something like that. And they're always bringing up really unique films, whether it's a genre film, whether it's a foreign film. They always have their finger on the pulse of a film that more than likely I haven't heard of, but I should have heard of. You know what I mean? And they always have really great discussions. Check out Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema with Will and Sam. Huge inspiration to me, and I know so many other podcasters. Up next, I'll mention Caliber 9 from Outer Space with Rob and Joe. Rob and Joe have been doing this, I think, just like me, probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And these guys are great, man. Every week they do a drive-in feature. Basically, they cover two films. They have their A film and their B film, excuse me. And a lot of times they have themes. Like last week, I know they talked about the film A Battle of Algiers, and I can't remember the second film, but they talked about two films. They both have the word battle in the title. And, they always have really great discussions. And those guys have been on my show. If you guys watch my show, of course, they've been on quite a few times, and I've had the pleasure of being on their show, and it's always a great time. We always have a lot of laughs, and we always have great conversations. They become good friends, and their company and conversations are always appreciated. So definitely check out Caliber 9 from Outer Space. Up next, I have my brother Mr. Jose and Mike the Wildebeest with Watch Skip Plus. Now, these guys, again, I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. I'm always in shock that every week they are doing the tough work, guys, because they're going out to the movie theaters, and I go to the movie theaters every weekend too. But not only are they going to the movie theaters every weekend, but they're talking about films that are in the movie theaters. And as we get older, we realize how tough it is to remember everything. And I know myself, I was on the Jose's show once for Strange Darling, and it was a great time. But I remember literally immediately after I saw that movie, I had to take out my notebook and start taking notes because my memory is like Swiss cheese, and it's got lots of holes in it. And if I didn't start taking down notes immediately, I knew that I was going to forget something that was vital to the discussion. But they do that every week, so they must have that muscle memory. That's the only thing I can think of. But they do it well. And it's such a great show. Jose and Mike are both awesome guys. Hoping in June, Mr. Jose and Justin will join me. We'll get back to our Spotlight series, and we're going to continue our discussion of Mr. Jeff Bridges. So that's something to look forward to as well, guys. We just have to work out the dates and see what works out best for everybody. So that's Watch Skip Plus. Of course, you got to have the Raiders of the Podcast. Raiders of the Podcast, great show. They've been doing it for, I want to say 6 or 7 years. You got Dave Gray, you got Kevin Matthews, Tyler, and Greg. You got a great show, guys. And again, it's another show where they do the two films. Each week they discuss two films, and they're always bringing the magic, guys. They're always bringing us diversity. Last week they talked about Real Genius, and I can't remember the second film, so I apologize, guys. But let's face it, Real Genius, enough said. One of Val Kilmer's best roles, and it's a role that goes to show that the guy really had the comedy chops. And, I know they mentioned on the show, and I'll mention it too. It's one of those guys. Val is one of those guys that, I think later on in his career, he got a little bit labeled as a little bit difficult to work with, and maybe perhaps got a little full of himself. But the guy had talent, and I would have loved to have seen him do more comedy. It's unfortunate what happened to him. 64, I think he was when he passed. That's way too young to pass away. Especially as I hit 50 last year, guys. I'm like, whoa, 64 isn't that far away. I hope I have a little bit longer. With my luck, I'll probably, just before I retire, I'll probably drop dead, but such is life. But anyway, guys, that's the big show for today. Like I said, I can't make any promises. If I have the time over the weekend, I'm going to try to record a comic book episode. I don't know what yet, but I have a couple graphic novels that I'm kind of debating on which one to talk about. So I'm hoping to possibly record one of those over the course of the next week and drop a new episode. And then, like I said, the following week, we'll have Mr. John Nance back to talk about Fahrenheit 451. And I'm really looking forward to that, guy. Fahrenheit 451 is a film that I like a lot. It's a book that I absolutely adore. And I can't wait to get into a nice conversation about it. And I might even talk about the Michael B. Jordan one. I don't think it's entirely a successful film when it comes to adapting the work of Mr. Ray Bradbury, but I also think there's maybe something of merit there. But that's only talked about hopefully in our next conversation. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you have a happy Memorial Day. Like I said, Troy, I hope you have an awesome birthday, brother. And I hope you're celebrating properly. Hopefully you're drunk already. I don't know. It's early, so maybe not. I don't know. But either way, I hope it's a great birthday. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to everybody soon.